This is Keyed In with Max and Brent, unlocking the minds of the industry's top real estate professionals. And now, here are your hosts, Max Rabin and Brent Jackson.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Keyed In podcast. Max Rabin here.
I'm Brent Jackson.
Hey Brent, I've only been to the movie theater like twice since the pandemic, because three times since the pandemic started. So I went last week to see the new Ghostbusters movie, and I'm really, really back into Ghostbusters now. I'm just putting this out there for people. I love the new Ghostbusters movie. I'm plugging it. This is just a random thing. I just wanted to mention that at the top of the. Sorry,
I haven't seen it, but I heard it was really good, and Dan Aykroyd crushed his character, right? Because he's in it.
He's in. Well, I don't want to give any spoilers, but for a nostalgic, like, mid-40s person like me, it's very heartfelt to see what that movie. I really loved it, and the kids loved it too. So now it's like we've re-entered the Ghostbusters world in this new era, and I think it's fantastic. But enough about that.
And then you're gonna take him to Gucci, right? House of Gucci,
right?
That's the next one.
Yeah, that's probably not safe for children. So I heard that's terrible, by the way. Forget it. Whatever. This is not real estate related. This is just, we're BSing. Let's welcome our guest, Trian Johnson. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you guys for having me.
Thanks for being on.
Yeah, really. Thank you. We're just gonna do here's a little intro. Trian is a local. She went to Holy Cross Academy, Oakcrest School for Girls, and Howard University. And she is an alumni parent for Holy Trinity and Georgetown Prep. I just was playing tennis at Georgetown Prep the other day, believe it or not.
Okay.
She's also huge with community building and working with her sphere in the community. She sits on boards. Very interested to hear about that. That's something that I think lots of people are always interested in becoming more involved in, but they don't really realize how much extra work and time that really takes. And it's yeah. So welcome. Thank you again for coming on.
Thank you.
So diving in here a little bit, just getting right into it. Want to give us a little bit of origin story on like how you got into real estate?
Oh, wow. So my story is, all of us have these unique stories. So my mom was the business development officer for Coldwell Banker. She was in real estate, not on the real estate side. And I used to go to her office and I would be like, I'm never doing that. Those people look miserable. I mean, I used to go past their desks like that has to be like terror. And so, went to college, planned to go to law school, and then, didn't do that, had a family, and became a teacher because I wanted to make sure I could always be around for my family. And then it was 1999, December. We were about to have holiday break. And my mom's like, you would be a great realtor. You should reconsider. So I said, well, you know what? I'm going to take the week and take the test. So I studied and did the whole, 60 hours or whatever in 1 week. And then I took the exam, and I took the last exam of 1999, passed it first time out, and had my first client before I actually finished real estate school, and I was still teaching.
Were you at did you start at a Coldwell Banker?
No, actually I didn't. But I ended up there. I ended up in the Bethesda office. It was a Pardo office, and so here I am.
So how long were you with Coldwell Banker?
Gosh. So everything is like based on where my child was in school. So I was from elementary all the way through prep. I was there. So that would have been, when he was at Holy Trinity. So probably about 8 years.
So you said you had a client right out of the gate after getting your license?
I did. So what I decided to do was I started telling people, you know what, I'm going to get my real estate license. Who wants to be my first client? And so people were like, what? And so I was like, yeah, who wants to be my first client? So my first client was a district attorney. And he was like, why should I work with you? And I said, because I know where all the great houses are. And he was like, are you sure? And I was like, yes. I said, tell me about what you're thinking that you want to do. And he told me, and I was like, well, you need to move here. And he was like, what? I said, "This is the neighborhood where you should
This is
go."
it.
So that was my first one. The next client right after him was the chief of police. And then the next client after him,
The chief of police in DC.
no, he wasn't the DC chief of police. This was a different chief of police. And then
Gotcha.
right after him, I had my first MBA client, like literally. And I was
Oh,
teaching.
I
I
love
went
MBA.
from, it
Yes.
was crazy.
So I went back up a little bit. I mean, that's an interesting spin on it because I always tell people
Yeah.
like just getting out of real estate school, tell them like you act like you've been here before.
I
Act
did.
like, hey, look,
Yep.
this isn't my first radio, but it's interesting that spin of who wants to be my first client, who wants to
Right.
sign up.
Yeah.
Right. But your
And
mom said you'd make a great realtor, and then you're like, okay, fine. Yep. And just telling people where to move and the whole thing.
exactly. And so I think that for me, it was so, I don't wanna say it was easy, but it was so authentic. Like, I didn't start with people who did not have resources. I started with people, they could have gone and worked with anybody. And they were like,
Yeah.
"Okay, well, what do you think?" And because I could identify why they should move to a certain area, what the benefits were, they were like, "She actually does know what she's talking about." So, it just went from there.
Well, so going back, so you
Yeah.
mentioned people are choosing you, and they have a plethora of agents. Everybody knows, 10 different agents, but they're choosing you because of your directness. Like you're telling them what to buy and where to buy.
I don't know if it's necessarily the directness, but I think it's first being a great listener
Right.
and then looking at it and saying, well, this is where I think you should go. And 9 times out of 10, they're like, no, 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 I want to go over here. And I'm like, okay. And I always have this bet with myself of where they're going to end up. And so one of
Totally.
the stories that is probably one of my favorite, which ended up in the Washington Post this past, I think it was this past year. My client was featured in there, and they lived in DuPont.
Mhm.
They were absolutely adamant that they had to be in a certain block radius. He wanted to walk to his office, and I listened to both of them, the husband and the wife, and they have a son. And I knew in my brain where they would probably end up, but I listened. We did, Cleveland Park. We looked at a lot of different areas that I thought were going to give them what they said they wanted. Then I said, "Would you guys just amuse me and go where I think would be the best situation?" And the husband's
Right.
like, "Absolutely not. I'm not doing it,
What?
blah, blah, blah." And I was like, "Okay, can you just amuse me?" We go there. He sees this house. He looks at his wife. He looks at me, and I knew he was a goner. I mean, I knew it was a wrap. And so then we saw one other house in the same neighborhood, and he goes, "We need to make an offer." And so I laugh with them about it all the time because he goes, "I cannot believe that you convinced me to go to a neighborhood that he was absolutely adamant that he would not even go look." So that's probably how it usually ends up. I think it's hilarious though.
Can you share which
Oh,
neighborhood that
yeah. What
was?
neighborhood? Can you
But
share?
where did they end up?
Yes.
Yeah.
National Harbor.
Oh,
Oh,
wow, that
okay.
is a big difference
It's
Whoa,
from
an
that is very
DuPont Circle.
different.
enormous difference.
Yes.
But how
And
did you? But so they were looking in. You said Cleveland. I mean, going from
they
Cleveland Park to National Harbor
And I
is
was thinking, okay, maybe Logan Circle or
yeah,
Shaw.
no.
or
They lived
Foxhall.
in DuPont. We're a walking family. His office is in DuPont, and this happened during COVID. And listening to his wife and what she was thinking about, and listening to what he said he wanted. He's a runner. He's very active, and
Mhm.
and I just said, I just have a suspicion because they travel a lot. They would be super close to the airport. Like there were some distinct characteristics that I saw, and I just took a gamble. And they wrote within, I would say, 20 minutes of being in
That's
that
amazing.
house.
Oh, wow.
That is
So
amazing.
it was totally off the charts. And they're probably one of my greatest source of referrals. I've now sold their daughter a house. I mean, and she's a physician, and they are
Mhm.
they're dear friends at this point. So
Yeah.
it's an amazing story.
That is an awesome
Well,
story going from DuPont to National
Yeah.
Harbor.
I mean, I wouldn't. Yeah.
No
When
one would have
when I
foreseen that one.
Well,
So I'm just
when I
curious, like
yeah.
when you're, so you said you could see them going differently in different directions, or let's test that market. Like I'm not brave enough to go outside the little DC bubble. Like I guess what are you seeing or saying like, hey, let's go all the way to National Harbor?
I
Yeah.
think it was because what happened, especially in this particular instance, we were off of New Mexico Avenue looking at a property near Foxhall.
Mhm.
And he looks at me and he was like, I'm not doing this. And so she had a different opinion. And, I could, they, they reflected it, felt more like therapy at the time. Usually feel like I'm like a real estate therapist. And I just took what he said and took what she said, and I just asked them to just trust me. And they are so happy. I mean, I can't even tell you how many concerts they've gone to at MGM. Like, I took everything that they said they
Oh,
loved,
yeah.
and then
So if they wanna
I
be yeah, entertainment, you got that out there, that's for sure.
entertainment, being close to the airport so they can get
Yep.
out of town and travel. He's a runner. They have an entire running group there. You can go to Old Town. It was a very tough gamble, but it was the right choice.
And it paid off.
It did pay off.
It's pretty smart. I need you
I,
to, come with me and some of my clients. There's no question.
no
I mean,
questions. Just
I'm
follow
doing the
me.
runaround with I'm still doing these runarounds. It's like, I wanna look in Columbia Heights, Shaw, DuPont, Adams Morgan,
Right.
maybe Arlington, and you're like, "Whoa,
Wait,
what?"
what?
Yeah.
Right. That's too much.
Yeah, so, anyway,
Yes.
good job.
So Coldwell
Yeah,
Banker for 8 years, and then where did you go after Coldwell Banker?
Um, so after that, Paul Slivka was in the Georgetown office of Coldwell Banker, and then he started Central Properties. And so
right.
I went there for a short time. And then I ended up at TTR, which there's a whole story about me and TTR because I would have first I interviewed on the office off of 14th, which was a little on the side street. Fred was actually the
Oh,
broker then.
was it 1410 Q Street?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
That was my old
And
office.
then
Wow.
yes, and then they had me come in. I was potentially going to be in the new Chevy Chase office, and I didn't go. And then came around again, and here we are.
Wow. So
So
that was I started in
wait, they made
2005, and it was 1410 Q Street.
Hmm. On the
wait, did
side
they so
street.
Yeah.
they made an offer for you to go to the Chevy Chase office and you were like, "No, thanks."
Honestly, at the time, and I remember the interview. I mean, I remember it like it was yesterday. I Oddly enough, what people don't realize about TTR, and I'm going to give TTR this huge plug, is that we are actually a lot nicer and more supportive than people think. So I had this vision
What
in
do
my
people think?
brain,
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
but I'm
What's the
saying
perception here?
I had a vision in my brain that like everybody was going to be like stuffy and super mean or whatever. So at the
No.
time, me being in Bethesda, my son was at prep, you
Mhm.
know, the moms, a lot of us had kids at prep or Landon, and so it was a community. So I was thinking, I don't know if I want to really switch at that time. But after coming over, I realized like we're actually, in my opinion, probably 50 times nicer than what anybody actually even realizes, in my opinion.
Well, I mean, I've worked with agents at our company. We work together all the time, and yeah, the camaraderie is actually really solid. I have to say, it's
Yeah,
like very friendly atmosphere. But I think that that's just part of being good brokers. Where you have to be out in the community with these other brokers all the time, working with them, and you're going to get a lot farther with making friends rather than what quote unquote enemies out here. So
right. That's
it's
true.
always, but yeah,
And
I
I
That's
like
am
I
true.
like
50
the
times friendlier than most people.
That's true. You are. Oh, you know what?
that's
I
that's
did
true.
a little brief time at Long and Foster, Nathan Karn's office. I almost forgot
Ah.
about Nathan. He's super nice, but I was only there a short time.
So at this point in your career, so you started in '99. You were out there
Hmm.
being super aggressive, telling people where to live, and obviously that was working fine. How was your business consistent, like when you first started, or were there
It,
some ups and downs? How did it go?
it was extremely consistent. And so then I stopped
Wow.
teaching. However, but then having children, sports comes into play, and
Yeah.
I decided I was never gonna miss a single game. I was like the homeroom parent. I mean, if there was anything that happened, I was there. So then I structured my business so that, I was more mother versus
Hmm.
realtor, and I made a decision that, after everybody was gone, that I would then rededicate, which is what I've done. And so now, I'm not every weekend I traveled. I was doing soccer, football, track, basketball, that's a career.
Yeah. Yes, it is.
So,
A lot of
my life was a
it's a
little
lot of
bit
driving.
different.
It's a lot of
Yeah.
driving.
A lot of driving and then out of town games, and so I think that was my main job. So now I'm like, "You know what? It's just completely different. I'm not doing that." So
Would you network with the parents? I mean, because again, I'm in that same boat. You're seeing them at the soccer game,
mhm.
basketball, tennis, ballet, Washington Ballet, and it's kind of like it just comes up: traffic, weather, and real
Real
estate.
estate.
So it's like, "Oh, what are you doing?" I was like, "Oh, by the way," and then you just go right into it. You're there as a parent first, but it always comes up that
Yeah.
you're a real estate agent. So were you able to get business from those?
I did I definitely did. Um, and those relationships I still have. But now because I'm not, spending 20 hours a week or more doing that, it's just
Driving around.
pe
Yeah.
yes, people are just like, "Wow, okay, let's." So things have just taken off in just such an enormous way. It's almost like it's a full circle from when I initially started to now. I can
Hmm.
see just the enormous uptick in what I'm doing and how many people I'm servicing.
Was it easy?
Wow.
Because I guess both of you guys, right, Max? Both of you guys started. You grew up here, and then
Yeah.
was it easy for you to just jump right in real estate with all of your friends calling? They need a rental. They need a home. How did you reach out to your friends and let them know? Flyers, mailers, texting, emailing.
Yeah, Trian, what was your
Actually,
local sphere like? My local sphere, to be honest with you, has definitely been a good source of business. Okay, but uh, it's I don't have like a network of um college alumni because I went to a music school, a smaller
right?
school. I don't have all of that. Um, but I mean, I can say that most of my businesses comes from other like organic things rather than my original sphere of locals. What about you? Like,
It's the same. It's
yeah.
been so I'll give you an example. When my son was at Holy Trinity in Georgetown, I used to see the postman every day because I was at the school for some reason doing something. And he was like, "What do you do?" I said, I'm in real estate." Because he's like, "You're always here, so you must, not work." And I told him, and he was like, "Let me have your card." I said, "Great, I'm going to sell you a house." So literally, I sold the postman in Georgetown a house, then
Nice.
his sold his wife, and then a house, and they divorced, and then I sold them both places separately. Sold my
There
son's
you go.
barber a house, like, literally, it was that. So it wasn't
Yeah.
necessarily my friends from school or whatever, but it was super organic.
Well, I found also a lot of people, DC, especially young people growing up in DC, a lot of them don't stay.
No,
They're, I've had friends go, or at least acquaintances and friends, they go to New York or LA or other random places, but do not have a lot of originals still here from
that's
my,
true, we're dinosaurs, and
I know,
they like, I
DC
had a
dinosaur.
Yeah, I had a appraiser that I just met the other day, and she was like, "Are you from DC?" I was like, "Yeah." And I said, "Where'd you go to school?" And she was like, "Well, I went to Madeira." She was like, "Have you heard of it?" I was like, "Of course I've heard of Madeira." And so we start talking and we realized we knew mutual people in common.
Hmm.
And it was just interesting talking to a local because we are dinosaurs. Most people, like my elementary school is now the Aiden Montessori, so it's near Murray. Well,
Yeah.
if you didn't grow up here, you don't know that that was St. Thomas Apostle Parish, but that was my elementary school. So it's refreshing to talk to people and they actually know. Like when I talk to you to talk about Duke Ellington, like I tested
Yeah.
to go to Duke Ellington. So I remember when it wasn't pretty.
It sounds like you were a few levels up though, as it turned out. Ellington was kind of really funky back then.
It was I've never been that afraid of a building. I was like, "There's no way I'm going I'm not
Yeah,
going here."
it was a far cry from what it is now. I walked in there, a couple years ago after they finished the renovation. I was like, "Jesus."
I
I was
know.
telling that these kids were giving me a tour of the place, and I said, "Hey, listen, you guys, you have
Right.
no idea how lucky you are right now.
No idea.
Seriously. Like, just you have everything at your fingertips. Do not screw this up." And the
I
kids are like,
know.
"Okay, whatever." I'm like,
They have no idea. I mean,
Yeah,
I used to go to Jello's every Friday because they used to have
yeah.
skating in there, so we would go there, but Duke Ellington was such a unattractive school, like, you would just, like, try to get to visitation and, like, skip over it, like, it was just, it was Maine,
It
but
was rough. Yeah.
yes, it was.
So I guess when
I
you're
mean,
out with
yeah.
buyers and sellers, spinning it a little bit, this knowledge, even with you, Max, like being able to go back, decades and talk about buildings, schools,
Right.
neighborhoods, blocks, because you guys have seen a total transformation basically in every walk of life, Washington,
Absolutely.
D.C.
Absolutely. Like,
I
I
think
was
about
the
it all the
first
time.
person yeah, I was the first person in my Bethesda office that would go down to U Street. They were like, "I'm not going down there. Do you want the referral? I'm not going." Wouldn't even consider. They're like, "No way. That's too much for me."
I mean, it was hardcore. It
It
was a
was.
little bizarre. But
It
I was
was.
down there, but I was down there in the mid '90s, early '90s partying with my weird friends, and
Exactly.
we didn't even think twice about it.
No,
I don't
people went to
I don't
tracks and everything else. Nothing happened to
yeah.
us.
I mean, nothing happened to us.
No, not to
So
us.
What is
and
tracks?
I
What is that? Is that a
Tracks
Trax was a
That was
huge
the
nightclub.
best, yes, that we probably shouldn't have been in, because then you could go to clubs and they didn't
Oh,
care if you were 12.
definitely
Um,
underage.
right, and so you would just go there to dance. It was in Southwest, and it was the best.
Oh, I've heard of that. Yeah, okay.
It was
It's right where Navy Yard is, basically.
Yeah.
it
My
was the
business
I
partner
think
best,
Rob talked about that.
well, I
the
think, like,
best.
let me try to think about, like, where the actual location might be. I'd have to look it up, but I feel like Velocity Condo or something might actually be right on one of those condos is built
Right,
right over it, I think.
mhm,
And, yeah, it's just so crazy to go to Navy Yard and those, locations down there in Southwest and, Southeast on the Navy Yard side to see when you go look what's there now, you can't even envision what was there before. It
right,
was so it was, like, either empty or low-rise, public housing, and
right,
then these weird warehouses, a couple clubs. It was just desolate, kind of desolate, but
exactly,
there was a cool places to go down there, you just had to know where they were.
exactly.
And it's come
Yeah.
full circle because I live there now and and they're still building there. It's the most cranes in all of DC, and there's 35,000 plus people living in that small quadrant, which is south of 295,
Mhm.
east of 290, southeast or South Capitol, from the water over to 8th Street. So there's 35,000 people living in that section, which is the most in all of DC. I mean, it's crazy what it's
Oh,
come
wow,
from tracks to Navy Yard or Southeast Waterfront, whatever you want to call it.
right.
But Trian, don't you have, like, the nostalgia for some of those old days? Like, the people just I mean,
I
but
do.
I think it's nationwide or worldwide, though, because you look back at this kinda stuff we did when we were younger in the city and how cool it was, at least to us, and you look now and you're like, "Not even close. Not even close."
No, not even, and especially because we looked like kids. We didn't look like
Yes, we
kids
did.
who were adults. We had our braces and, and so to think that we were out, you always went to Georgetown, like your parents
Oh,
never
yeah.
worried about you. You were out,
Yeah.
you went in pubs, you went everywhere and nothing ever happened to anybody. Like
You were
you
on
went
the
out
metro.
on the metro doing your thing, and it was just fun. I mean, I can't even
Mhm.
imagine being a teenager now, going to Commander Salamander and all those things. Like, I miss that.
It's literally it's this we did this I think we did a lot of the exact same stuff now because I don't think we talked about it to this level, but yes, the whole Georgetown thing, it's like just
Absolutely.
because I grew up like up Wisconsin Avenue, Chevy Chase, DC. We would literally get on the bus and ride down to Georgetown and just walk around all the shops, go to the record
Right.
stores, get burritos. Like it was just I don't know.
It's what
That
you
That's
was
do.
our vibe,
that's what
you
you
know.
did all the
Yep,
time. So,
Very
literally.
interesting. And this isn't a parenting show, but
Yeah.
also thinking like in today's world, right? It's like Instagram and Facebook and TikTok. Like that'd be frightening about to those shops or restaurants, and next thing you do something silly, and it's all over social media.
That's true.
The Instagram is more scary than any of the crap we did, I think,
I
Yes.
because
think it is, and I think Max and I have talked about this before, the Instagram life, where you
mhm,
create these images that aren't necessarily your real world, and
not at
then
all.
I think that people just start acting out in these environments that they've created, and next thing you know, you've got a problem on your hands. So,
Yeah.
but I don't. We didn't do that. We just had fun. We weren't like, we weren't 15 saying that we just got a Lamborghini. Like nobody cared if you even had a car, even though people did have cars. It was just different.
Yeah.
We were kids. We didn't think that we needed to be flying private,
Well,
to Bora Bora.
That's a whole nother
it's
lifestyle
so
there.
true. I mean, I could go down. I could talk about that kind of stuff like endlessly. Like we thought like I had my car magazines and I thought Lamborghinis were cool, but it was like a you were you were gonna pretend you had a Lamborghini or like
Exactly.
be it just it was like that
Right.
was for either not you didn't even think like, oh, that's for rich people. You're just like, that is a fantasy dream. These are just cool things on pieces of paper that I've seen. Just
Exactly.
it was Miami Vice or something. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's like,
Not that your
yeah,
parent has to give that to you when you graduate from high school. Now it's a whole nother
yeah.
level of oddness.
Here we
So
are.
you mentioned a few minutes ago that your business has come full circle.
Yes.
Kids are older. So what are you doing differently than other agents that's really working well for you?
So this year has been my year of yes. So people have asked me like, what happened this year? So number one, I am not a Instagram, Facebook kind of person. So my goddaughter, who is of appropriate age, was like, listen, don't you see those squiggly lines? Those are direct messages. You need to answer those. So she literally started going into my Facebook and she was like, hit all of the friends. I was like, but some of those people I don't know. She's like, it doesn't matter.
Doesn't
If
matter.
they're gross, then just get rid of them later. And so she was like, "You need to start posting," even though I've heard these things like 9,000 times, but
Yeah.
it wasn't me. And so she kind of started the impetus of that. And then I'm sitting in the office, and Daniel's office called and was like, "Hey, do you want to be in a video?" And I was like, "Okay, yes." And then I did 3 TikTok videos, which one of them has probably close to 4 million views. So my
Wow,
goddaughter was like,
Yeah.
"You do realize you went viral?" I was like, "But what does that mean?" She was like, "No, that's
What does that mean?
like a big deal. That means it's over 1 million people." So that's also started in the year, and then um, started doing commercials. And from the commercials, I got a telephone call to ask me if I would consider, interviewing for to do some segments on television, and I said yes. So literally, this year has been number one, me answering my phone, responding to strange messages on Facebook, and saying yes.
Yeah.
that's awesome.
Well,
Seriously.
What
the
segments are you
videos
doing on? Oh, go ahead,
sorry,
Max.
I just wanna say
Yes.
the TikTok videos look great. So, that was awesome.
Yeah,
But
and it
he
was it was like a fluke. I mean, he called, I was like, "Okay." And then I think the next day or 2 days later, I was filming the first one.
That's a great
so
video because I
easy.
remembered it. Was that your car that pulled
Yeah,
up? That's
it's
a
my
nice
car.
car. Yeah, nice car pulls up front. You jump out, and I know the house.
Yeah, it's
It's
right by our gym.
yeah, it's right by we
Twen
sold the house.
22nd
Like
Street.
Rankin, our one of our owners of our company sold it. We brought the buyer, and then things shifted, and then Daniel represented the buyer on the back
Right.
end. But it was a gorgeous house. It was uh, yeah, it was a gorgeous house. I
Mhm,
know
in the
that
West
house.
End.
Yes, and
But
that
then you
was
did another one
great
at the
video.
Watergate also was a nice one.
Yeah, so the first one that I did was actually the Watergate. What people don't realize is that was the same day that the siege on the Capitol.
Oh wow,
Oh,
So
whoa.
I'm doing the
It's almost
video.
a year ago.
Yes, and
Isn't that
it was
crazy?
the beginning of the year, and I'm doing the video, and my phone is just going crazy, and I didn't people were trying to see if I was okay. Well, I was doing TikTok videos. So so now I think back like, "Oh my gosh," every time I see those videos, I realize what was going on in the world, in the real world.
Yeah.
so on TikTok, I know Max has a big TikTok following. So being on TikTok and getting 4 million views, did you have any, like, people come up to you after the fact, like, "Oh, I saw you on that video."
Oddly enough, I was asked to speak to a group of children about, teens actually, about, social media because of the video. They didn't
Hmm.
realize someone saw the video in California and was like, "There's this great video," and they actually got in touch with me because of the
Wow.
video. So,
So, and then on
yeah,
your year of yes, like if someone says like, "Hey, come
yes.
speak to a group of teenagers," you're like,
I
"Yes,
said, "Yes."
it's
It's
100%."
literally been me saying, "Okay, yes," which is something that a year before I would have never done.
Well, I think this podcast is kind of like a yes thing for
It
us, Brent. We're
totally,
like, "Should
Yes,
we do this?" It's like, "Yes."
yes.
and here you are, and
I also watched a Jim Carrey movie last December. I think it's called Yes Man or whatever it is, and he says
Oh,
yes to
yeah.
everything
oh, to
across the
everything.
yes.
That's right.
That's
That's right.
amazing. Am I your first woman guest?
I
No.
think we no.
Who was the first woman?
Shannon?
Oh, it was Shannon.
Oh, tha okay.
I couldn't remember if
Yeah.
it was Shannon or and we had Lauren Davis on here
Oh,
and
yeah,
a
oh, yeah,
couple.
yeah. But I think that even you
Heather.
guys asking, I was just like, "Okay, yes,
Yeah. We need to find more of the yes people across the board and everything. Sellers, buyers. "You want this house?" "Yes."
yes."
"Sign me up."
'Cause you know what? The reality of it is this, is that you don't know what the outcome can be. Even if the outcome is not what you project it to be, then you pivot, but you don't know where your life is gonna end up. Everything that I've
Right.
done this year has been something that I would have never done, from a TikTok video to the commercials that I do, to the segments that I do on ABC. Even this, I would have never done any of those things because I even told them, "Hey, I don't have any experience," and they were like,
What
"Okay."
what commercials? Talk about the commercials.
So in March, um, the idea, was posed to me, "Well, you should do some commercials." And I was like, "What? Do commercials?" And I was like, "Okay." Yes. So, it's a dear friend who loves marketing, and, that's kind of his lane. He was like, "I'll take care of it." Kinda like my goddaughter was like, "I'll do the social media." He was like, "I'll do this." And so
So what are you
here
selling
they
on the
are.
commercials?
Yeah, what's the
Myself.
Is
commercial?
that oh, okay.
So they're your
Interesting.
commercials for your business.
Yes, they're my commercials. So they're on WHUR, and,
Nice.
I'm a Howard alum. My dad
Right?
was a sportscaster at, WHUR,
Okay.
and so I was like, "Okay, yes." And so, the commercials have
Well,
been
that seems
super
like an
successful.
easy one. Like that's pretty solid marketing actually, like radio spots for
It's
real estate.
fabulous marketing. Yes,
Yeah.
And that's
so
working out for you. I think you're getting business or getting contacts that are reaching out to you.
I think that not only am I getting business, what I realize is that you don't have to be, which we all know, especially in our culture, you don't have to be the smartest. You don't have to be the wealthiest. You don't have to be the top of anything. But what you do have to do is be in front of people
Mhm.
more than anything, because people want to know who you are. They want to connect with you. And
Yeah.
so I have people that, from childhood, I have all kinds of people that are like, even if they're not buying, they're like, "Hey, Trian," it just keeps you top of mind. And so that's the great part about it.
That's
In the
awesome.
segments on ABC, is that selling you or are you doing like a real estate segment on the
So it is a real estate segment, of course. I did one of one of your listings in on Capitol Hill. So it is a segment, and I do. It's interesting because people are like, "Oh, well, if you don't have any experience, how did you do that?" And it's taped. It's not rehearsed. We don't have
Mhm.
a script. I usually select interesting properties that I think are kind of unique or something special. And then we film a segment, and I kind of talk about them, and sometimes some things about the area. And so it's fun. It's fun. And I would not have done it. And of course, if they want to buy a house or sell a house, we would hope that they would come to
reach
me.
out to you?
And
So
so,
this is on ABC 7?
yes,
So
usually I
yeah.
air sometimes 3 times a month on
Hmm.
Fridays, and, so it's Good Morning Washington, and, so I have a moniker now, which is, uh, your DMV realtor extraordinaire. So
Listen, TV is even though we're like entering this era of streaming and social
mhm,
media, or we're in it, but
mhm.
TV is still huge,
Yes,
huge. To be on television, people watch TV. Are still very much watching, especially local news. I mean, Jesus.
they are, and I was doing an open house, and literally, I before the open, I'd gone to the neighbors to say, "Hey, I'm gonna be here early. Do you wanna come and see the house?" Which a lot of us do, right?
Hmm.
I get to the first door, knock on it. "Oh my gosh, I just saw you on television." I was like, s I literally thought this woman was joking. She was like, "No, I saw you." And so I realized, like, I may not watch television because I'm working, but people are watching
They
television.
watch
A
for
lot of
sure.
people watch, and they listen to the radio, whether they're in their car, at the gym, or
They do.
Yeah.
whatnot, so you're doing the social media, so you're hitting them in all the avenues that you need to.
Yeah, that's like probably even that's a lot broader than what a lot of other agents are doing. And I mean, to
Yes.
be on television and radio is like,
Right.
how do you even do that?
And it wasn't even intentional. I mean, even television, I was in a house and my phone rang and I was like, "Oh, always answer your phone." People go, Do you really answer your phone?" Yes, I actually try to answer my phone you know, and try to say yes.
Are you more exhausted this year in 21?
What'd you
Saying yes to everything, are you more exhausted?
I am extraordinarily exhausted.
Says it so calmly. I am extraordinarily exhausted.
Yes. So, super busy. And the things that I have lined up already for this year, next year is going to be extraordinary. So there's something that I really wanted to be a part of that I wrote down at the beginning of the year that I actually have in writing that I will be representing, and it's in
Wow,
complete alignment with my yes year.
that's
That's awesome.
fabulous.
Yes.
So no spoilers on that. Is that what we can't get a tease?
Oh gosh. I can't give you a spoiler, but I will
That's fine.
say that it is something that sometimes it makes a whole person's year. So it's it just connects all the dots. And at some point you're going to go, "Oh my gosh, she was right." It really does connect all the dots. So um I just have a different perspective,
Hmm.
and it's been great. In fact, even being here is great. And kudos to both of you for doing something that you may not have thought about doing, because I think the show is awesome.
Thank you,
Thank
and
you.
we did not, like I said in one of our podcasts earlier, it wasn't on our agenda or on our business plan. Let's think of a
Yeah,
podcast. It just kind of, with the help of Lauren and, Max and
Mhm.
myself, we all
yeah.
just kinda came together and started doing it.
I think those are
I
the
mean, really,
best
but
things now.
quick shout out to Lauren. Lauren really does
Yeah.
maybe 90% of the work.
Right.
So more, maybe more. I
Hey,
don't know.
Lauren.
She's awesome.
Yes.
So yeah, so let's go back to our real estate business
Mhm.
here. So now you are over 20 years in real estate business, right?
Yes, from
Yes,
1999. Yes,
it's hard to say.
December. Mhm.
But so 20 years in the business, how are you running your business on a day-to-day basis? You're not on a team, you're like just you're your own agent out here. How do you handle all the other stuff that goes into the business, like contracts and their marketing?
Home
Do you have
inspections
someone?
and
Yeah.
This is now you have just asked the deepest question in the world, because in this year of yes, I started to need a lot of help.
Hmm.
And what I found is that is probably more challenging than selling real estate, because
Okay.
people really don't understand that you're really not off from work. This isn't a 9 to 5. This is a when something needs to get done, and that is has been challenging. So right now, today, I do have one person that's going to start to oversee
Oh wow.
some back of house things, which is great. And but it was tough. like trying to have people go along with me so they can learn things, and then they're just like, "Oh, I'm not gonna be able to." So I was like, "Okay, that's not gonna work."
That's impressive though,
You gotta
working by yourself with
Yes.
your
for that.
bulk
Yeah.
of business and all
Mhm.
of your extracurricular activities, and that's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a lot.
But it's exhausting, and and look, you'll obviously you know this a million times, and you'll find this out very easily. Like if you sync up with the right person who's going to help you out, it's going to only make you more successful. I mean, it's just
Absolutely.
yeah,
It's critical
you just
actually at a certain point.
yeah, very much, very much.
Mhm.
So I read somewhere that you're very involved with different boards, organizations,
Right.
philanthropy. Are you still totally
Yes.
involved with everything?
Yes. So, I served on many, many boards, and at local levels, regional levels, national levels. Um, I have ended most of those in major capacities. I will become the president of the Washington D.C. Um, chapter of FIAPSI, and that will start in January. So that's going to be more of my primary. Um, I would say because it's not just community service. I mean, FIAPSI, and I don't know if you guys have ever heard of it. It's the
Mm-mm.
International Real Estate Federation, and it was started in France, and it is a
Okay.
legitimately wonderful international organization. So you travel, you learn languages. I mean, it's fabulous. So the local council that was restarted here, if before they came back to Washington, you would have to go to New York, but, just the thought of being able to be more ingrained in that, I'm so excited about it. Super excited.
That's
So
amazing.
when you're let's talk about like serving on a board. I know
Mhm.
each situation is different, but if you're going to be on the board for this organization, what is that going to entail? I mean, you're talking about these like opportunities to uh, languages and travel, but are there's there decision making? What's the time consumption? Tell
Yes,
us.
there is decision making. So you were in the arts. So when I served on the board
Yeah.
for National Society of Arts and Letters, we were making decisions and really helping change lives because we were doing scholarships for, very, very, very talented creatives. And
Hmm.
so to give your time, to host a formal ball and all of those things, knowing that you're raising money ultimately to help someone realize their dream. I mean, what's better than that?
Right. That's huge. That's a
And
major give back right there to do
Mhm.
all that.
and then just one question I always ask. I mean, you're doing it for the right reasons. Everybody should be. But did you ever get business outside of because you're on this board or that board? Did people come to you and want to sell their house or they're looking for their next house?
I have gotten business serving on boards. Actually, one in particular, I got a lot of business from that. And I think that it wasn't exclusively because I was a realtor, it was because they saw my level of commitment,
Right.
that really you're giving your time because you're not paid to serve on these boards. Um, and I think that people get an opportunity to see you for who you are when you're not, doing something that's for compensation. Ultimately, your personality and your character um, will carry you wherever you're going to go. So it wasn't intentional, but it's definitely paid off.
Benefit.
Mhm.
Yeah, I've always
Yeah. I
told
mean,
it. Like
that's
I said, go ahead.
mhm. No, no, no. Go ahead, Sergeant.
No, like I just said, some agents will make that the primary book of business is to be on these different boards, and again, they're doing it for the right reasons. But one of the beneficial uh, points is, you get compensated on the back end because so and so needs to sell their house, or
Mhm.
they need to find another house.
Mhm. That's true.
I mean, it's a business of relationships, and if you're serving on a board and you have a common goal with that community of people, of course that's a relationship building scenario, no matter what you do or who you are. So it's
Right.
yeah, it's important. But as you said, I mean, you're doing things that are you're giving back to the community. Um, there are feelings that you get from working on some of those things that you can't replace. Money doesn't it's not about money. So
No. Mm-mm.
It really does require like a different level of commitment. I was just writing some thoughts about that though. It's just like, it's this kind of stuff doesn't always come naturally to people, to the philanthropy side of things and the community side of things. So that speaks very, I mean, obviously that speaks very highly of the kind of person you are, to be like constantly you're pursuing these things, something that
Yeah,
interests you, and you're on to the next one and the next one. It's
right.
amazing, really.
And it's interesting because every Saturday, so my first job, I probably spent my entire first 20 years somewhere on Wisconsin Avenue. So my first job was at Neiman Marcus because I went to school near Tenley. So you went to Mazda,
Yep.
after school or whatever.
Did we live
And
the same life?
we
This
lived
is
the same
very
life, Max. Clearly, we
I
ran
sw
into each other. um,
it's so funny.
but yeah, so that was my first credit card my parents gave me. So I was there. Everybody was like, "Well, you're going to get a job." And I wasn't allowed to have a job until I got my first job. I think I was a senior about to go to college. And so, of course, I went where I shopped, which is Neiman's at Mazda. You know everybody. So, I worked in gift wrapping, so I developed this absolute love of wrapping gifts. That's when they still wrapped. That's when,
Yeah.
and so every Saturday I still do it. I get gifts and I wrap them and I drop them
Wow.
off.
That's impressive.
So
I
people are like, "Seriously, Trian?" I mean, I Thanksgiving, I did it. So I mean, but it's actually very therapeutic. It's relaxing to me, but it's time consuming.
I think
How
you're
do you?
officially the busiest person that we've interviewed. Like,
And that's what
where
I'm,
I don't
my
know that
next
there's
my next question is like the life work balance, like with everything that you
that's what
have
it's
going on, and I'm just like, do you sleep?
that's right.
That's a great question. Um, I didn't get that much sleep last night, but I'm going to work on that. I'm going to take 2 weeks so
The
that
year
I
of sleep.
can. Mhm.
The year of
Yeah,
sleep.
not the year of sleep, but but no, I definitely plan to get some rest. I think it's different because I'm doing all these things that I love, so it doesn't feel like work. But then at the end of the day, you're like, "Did I just
Wow.
spend like 19 hours?" Like if it was something you didn't like, it would be torturous.
That's
So
right.
that's the difference.
That's impressive. I mean, like 19 hours to do anything. I mean, it's just it's and with kids, I mean, it's impressive. Very impressive.
Yeah.
Hey Brent, why don't we hit Trion with some rapid fire questions?
Rapid fire, 5 quick and easy questions here
Okay.
for the
So
busiest
easy.
lady we've ever interviewed. What is your guilty pleasure when you have time?
My guilty pleasure. Shopping.
Shopping. Do you have a
Well,
favorite
Neiman
store?
Marcus. I mean, she lives in Neiman Marcus, apparently.
My guilty pleasure would be fabulous shoes and boots and coats. I'm like obsessed with like different coats. I don't know why.
Well,
Wow, that sounds
that's
like
a
an
shared
expensive
guilty
one too.
pleasure. Yeah,
Yes.
that's a
But
tough
it
one.
needs to be on sale. Okay? Sale.
Okay, this is great. I'm glad you brought this up. We were just talking about this in my office yesterday because it's like, Cyber Monday, Tuesday, or whatever.
Right.
And I was talking to Lindsay in my office and I said, "Listen, you should buy this jacket." And she's like, "Is it on sale?" I'm like, "This jacket's really never on sale." She's like, "Listen, does it have a red line through it?" I'm like, "I can draw one on the screen." And she's like, "Well, if it has a red line through it, I'll buy it. But if not, sorry." That's is that the
That's
vibe?
funny.
I'm probably more like Lindsay. Like I feel like I'm like one of the best shoppers in the world. I want really great things at a great price.
What's that
Fair
saying?
enough.
Champagne tastes on a beer budget?
Yes. I mean, I will wait.
No, I'm the same way. I'll go straight to it drives my wife crazy because I go straight to the sell rack, and I'm like even, like, when I buy Christmas gifts, somebody will get, like, just a puke green shirt, and it's like, "Why'd you get that?" And I'm like, "Well, it was on sale."
It's on sale,
Yeah,
obviously.
Sale first.
sell
Always sale
first.
first.
All right.
What's your favorite TV show
Oh my gosh. I don't really watch TV.
or favorite
Okay,
movie?
Good Morning Washington.
Good Morning
Yeah, good.
Washington.
Obviously,
I'm
because
gonna
she's
say
the
that one.
star.
Okay.
When you're working out, Equinox, plug there for Equinox.
Yes, love Equinox.
What are you listening to, music or podcast?
When I'm working out at Equinox, I actually don't listen to anything there because I'm either in a class
Mm.
or I'm catching up with everybody. A lot of clients from Equinox too.
Yes,
A lot of clients. I
social
can
hour.
attest to that.
Yes.
I've reshifted like half of my day from the office at 14th Street to Equinox because we'll do $8 to $10 million a year just from Equinox.
I love it. First of all, I love it there. So it's like my home. It's like you're home away from home, and everybody sees you like, hey, they know you. Oh yeah, so and so needs whatever. I mean, it really is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's one piece of advice you'd give to a brand new agent just past their license?
One piece of advice. Only do this if you love it. Don't do it for the money because you will never make a dime.
That's great sound
You're
advice.
chasing dollars. You can keep chasing.
You're going to chase them forever
Yeah.
because
hmm
you know what we do for a real living. We're cleaning, we're doing all kinds of things, all dressed up.
hmm
You have to get it done. So you better do it because you love it.
Reaching up to change a light bulb while wearing a tucked in shirt is still just one of the most annoying things on earth. And you've got
There
to
you
do
go.
it.
Yes. Last question here. For the past 18 months during COVID, the market's been extremely hot. Every agent's having the best year ever. Any predictions for 22 for just a general DC market?
Based on the amount of signed listings that I have, I think that 2022 is going to continue
Nice.
to be an extension of 2021. You know, there are buyers that are on the fence saying that the market is going to crash, but you still have to
Hard.
have somewhere to
Yeah.
live. So
Yeah.
you're not going to crash on the sidewalk. So
And I think I'm lenders from what I've, well, you got new variants out here and this continuation of restrictions that interest rates are probably going to stay low for
mhm,
a period longer. And when
mhm.
I mean, I don't know that they'll ever get high ever again. So that's a really big market driver for us. So as long as the rates are in this 3.5 and under range, that's a big driver
Yep.
for
Yes.
sure. Well,
No more
Trian, thank you
questions for
so
me.
much. Okay, cool.
Thank you.
Trian, thank you so much for coming down. This is awesome. Great
Thank you.
conversation. Really appreciate you and all the things you're doing. And I love you, as you know. You're
Oh, I
fantastic.
love you too.
You're my
Thank you,
friends.
Trian. Amazing.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Keyed In with your hosts, Max and Brent, unlocking the minds of the industry's top real estate professionals. For more information on selling your home, find us online at keyedinpodcast.com. Remember to subscribe to Keyed In on Apple Podcasts or wherever you like to listen to podcasts. Follow us on Instagram at Keyed In Podcast, at Rabin Max, and at Brent E. Jackson. And follow Max on TikTok at MaxwellRabin_properties.